Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing great. Welcome to our learning lab on how AI generated video is impacting the training world. On behalf of Agile People Ops, me, Mariana Di Rosario, your host, would like to thank you all for joining us today. I would like to introduce our speaker for today's session, Kevin Olster. He heads up the learning team at Synthesia. He's focused on building Synthesia's customer academy and helping people figure out what to do with generative AI videos. His journey in the tech industry is driven by a decade-long experience in the education sector and various roles where he uses emerging technology to augment communication and creativity through video. He has been developing enterprise and branded learning solutions in organizations such as General Assembly, the School of the New York Times, and Sotheby's Institute of Art. Welcome, Kevin. The stage is all yours.
Thank you, Mariana. And what a fantastic introduction. So thank you so much there. For those of you who are just joining, feel free to write in the chat as I'm presenting for you today. Also happy to answer any questions, but for now, let's get this show on the road. So today we're talking about how AI video will change the way we learn and work, and a lot of this is focused on the training environment, because that's what a lot of the folks who I speak to are using AI video for. But a little bit of background. So during that wonderful introduction, you heard that I head up Synthesia Academy, and my background is in co-creating best-in-class learning experiences with big brands. But I love to show this video snippet here on the right. If you could kind of use your eyeballs and search for, you'll find me in the center of the frame. I'm the smallest person on this set, but also this is the vision of what digital video creation is like. And so this was my life 7 years ago, organizing a bunch of folks on set, and you can see all the lighting, the cameras, the actors, the hair and makeup. We're doing blocking right now, which means we're checking the camera height to make sure that the interviewers are there on camera. But what's nice is now in this present day, is 7 years later, I'm working at a company where we take all these different people and all this different equipment, and we say, hey, this can be done with just one person and a computer browser. So it's a nice kind of frame of mind to keep as we're talking about AI video, talking about how far the process has come. So our mission for today, I want to start by talking a little bit about the current state, because there's a lot of change that's happening right now in AI and the way that we do work. And there are problems of today that AI tools and AI video can address. And then there's also the future state. We want to talk about the opportunities of the future that AI tools and video can address as well. And I think it's a very interesting time to be alive, because the predictions that we make, rather than them coming true in a matter of years, they're coming true in the next few weeks and days. So you always have to keep up. So what I'm going to show you are some of the best-in-class examples of companies innovating with AI video now, so you can get a sense of what it's being used for. Maybe it's not changing the world overnight, but what it's being used for in training specifically. And then I want to look at the future of using AI video and avatars. And so where we're headed across the next 35 minutes or so, I've left some time for Q&A at the end, but again, we're going to talk about that broad view of AI and how it's impacting work. I want to talk about how do you use AI video to create learning. I'll then go to what are others doing with AI videos. So we'll talk about those examples and those use cases. I'll show off a little bit of Synthesia. Today is not really meant to be a demo, but just to show you an example of how you can build AI video in minutes rather than a few days or a few weeks. And then, of course, I've left time to talk about what's next and a little bit of Q&A, because I'm sure you will either be left a little bit speechless by what you see today, or you'll have tons of questions. So I've built in the time to answer those as best that I can today. So let's get started. So generative AI is already impacting your work and the organizations you work in. So as far as I know, no one has lost a job yet to ChatGPT or large language models or other AI-enabled applications, but your coworkers are using it to write emails, your kids are using it to write some of their school assignments. So it's all being used in this experimentation phase in varying degrees. And I think what's interesting about generative AI is that everyone's testing to see what they can do because it's accessible to everyone. You don't need the language of computers to make use of computer programs. You can use conversational language. And I think the big question to ask ourselves before we dive into AI video is, just because you can use it, should you? So that's that big question. Everyone's testing out to see what it can do, but the problem is it can be used for anything, which means that we can seemingly use it for everything at work, but should we? So there was this article that was released at the beginning of September, and it was released by BCG, which is a communications consulting and communications company. And what they did is this is the first real professional test of how large language models can impact actual day-to-day work, because otherwise it's just people making their best guess. And so what they did is they had 750 consultants, and they said, we're going to give you 18 different tasks that you do in your work every day. Some of you will receive AI, they'll get to use ChatGPT for their work, and some of you won't use it for your work. And they wanted to measure the impact and see, will ChatGPT make a difference in people performing better at work or worse? And so I have an AI friend who's got a discussion question for you while I take a sip of water.
Let's give Kevin a break to take in some water. But I'm curious to hear from you. In the chat, go ahead and write in what you think the outcome was. Which group performed better? The group with GPT-4 or the group without? Write your response in the chat.
All right, so that's my AI friend, Natalie. This is my chance to hear from
Let's give Kevin a break to take in some water.
Just a
But I'm
second.
curious to hear from you.
Oops.
Let's give Kevin a break to take in some
Kevin
water.
a break indeed. So
But I'm curious to hear from you.
Looking for my video controls. Let's just pause our friend Natalie for a second. So I'm going to go back into my presentation. So sorry about that. In the chat, can you write, thank you very much, Moteb. Can you write, what do you think, who perform better? Oh goodness, I'm just gonna leave it on here. Who do you think perform better, those with ChatGPT in their work or those without? So go ahead and write that in the chat. When given GPT-4 and asked to do the work that they do every day, who performs better, those with ChatGPT or those without? And Mariana, I'm curious, since you're on video here, what would your guess be? Who perform better, those with ChatGPT in their work or those without?
Those without.
Those without, interesting. Those with, okay, so we have some who are saying those with ChatGPT perform better, those without. It looks like we're split about 50-50 in terms of what those outcomes were. So I'll share what that looked like. So there were a couple different takeaways from this, but this chart on the left shows you that this was kind of maybe a trick question where there were those tasks that where ChatGPT was helpful and those without. So of these 750 consultants, what you can see here on the left is that if the task was creative product innovation, so helping to design new training or to come up with new ways to approach a creative problem or develop marketing copy, those with ChatGPT performed 40% better than those without. So in the work task of creative product innovation, GPT-4 really helped those people do work. However, if we look at business problems, something that business problem solving, maybe something that ChatGPT is not qualified really to help you take care of, those with ChatGPT actually perform 23% worse than those with ChatGPT. So what this means is that if you have the correct problem, that you know what problem you're trying to solve, and applications like ChatGPT can help with that, then it's going to massively help you. Whereas if it's a problem or task that ChatGPT is not qualified to solve, you'll find out that you actually can perform exponentially worse. So what does that mean for you? This means that whenever you're applying AI tools into work, it's so important that you start by identifying the problem. We take the AI tool out of the whole equation of whether or not we want to use this tool, and we have to start by identifying the specific challenge in training or learning and development or in your workspace. And you have to say, what are the current capabilities, resources, and limitations that I might have? Do I have everything? What am I able to do versus what am I not able to do? And this is even to solve that problem. And this is even before using ChatGPT. The second step is that you need to evaluate and plan. So you need to evaluate potential AI solutions that can address those challenges, because something like ChatGPT might not have the right qualifications for you to use to tackle your problem. And then the third step here is implement and iterate. Once you've chosen your AI solution, whether that's ChatGPT or another AI-enabled tool, you have to use it to solve that problem and then monitor its impact. And you want to see, did this solve my problem or not? And it's important that you run these small tests, because if you're going to start to fold ChatGPT, large language models, or other AI-enabled tools into your work, it's important that you do it in small experiments, and that will help you to make sure that you're not making the problem worse, or and that instead you're scaling the solution or making the problem better. Now, let's talk a little bit more specifically about AI video. That's me getting off of my AI tools high horse and saying, make sure you know what the problem is. And let's talk more specifically about AI video and how it's used for creating learning at work. I think in its current state, what we see for creating AI video for learning, a lot of it goes into those who are developing the training. And a lot of the folks who are in this role are the instructional designers. So when you think about what does an instructional designer do and why do they use AI video? Well, they will go to the business and they might conduct an analysis and say, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? They're experts in learning theory and saying, this is how adults learn best, or this is how the human brain takes in new information. Or they have an understanding of the best modalities for delivering knowledge to the learner. And so what instructional designers do is that they often say, what are you trying to solve at work? What are you able to do now versus what would you like to do? And how do we build a bridge of information and knowledge? How do we show you at work how you can build that bridge and help employees solve the specific problems they're working on? And in order to build that knowledge, we use different tools. And so some of the tools that are in common use for instructional designers, if they're using video, they might use something like Premiere Pro or After Effects or Camtasia for screen recording. They might use diagrams such as with Adobe Acrobat Pro or PowerPoint to create slide decks and PDFs and job aids. They might also use something for creating images like Canva or Photoshop. And of course, there's Audacity, which is for editing audio. And so when we look at this big list of tools that we use to build video and images and other diagrams, right now what we're being asked to do is master all these different applications and technologies to produce something that might not look good. And I think when you use traditional methods, it takes a lot of time to develop training videos. It takes a lot of time to develop courses. And so some data for you to help understand how long it's actually taking to build instructional products like e-learning and training videos. We can look at the study from 2021 that was done by a training organization here in the US. And it outlines how much time it takes somebody on average to build instructor-led training at work, and that can be on Classroom or online. That can look at e-learning. So if you're learning something through a website, or you're taking online courses, or you're taking scenario-based learning in games, and then maybe there's micro-learning as well, which is learning that takes maybe 5 to 7 minutes. You can see here that on average, it takes folks, if they're making e-learning, and we're talking about just training videos and e-learning, it takes them on average 26 to 30 hours in order to develop those resources. And I think the most egregious or the worst number to pull out from this is that on average, it takes 155 hours to develop just 17 minutes of fully engaging training content. And so maybe you're developing training videos now, maybe you're just creating videos in general, but you can see how much work goes into developing these things that really only add up to 15 minutes, 17 minutes for the end user. So there's so much that needs to be done about how do we reduce the time that it takes to create to create video or training resources. And so this brings up the next point, which is everyone knows you need video, but it can be awful. And this is one of my favorite slides to talk about because video is one of those things where it's something that we prefer to see. I know that when I leave work, I go from reading articles and text to going home and watching videos on Spotify or Twitch or Netflix or YouTube. And so there's this big problem with video where audiences don't want to watch and listen. They want to watch and listen through video, but they don't want to read. And a stat for you is that 82% of internet traffic was video in 2022. So people really want video, but it's awful because it takes so much time to create. And so why that is because a lot of video production is this linear process where once you have your idea, you then need to write out a script. You then need to storyboard out what the visuals will look like. You need to be on camera, or you need to hire an actor to deliver your script and your message. You need to be on camera like I am now. And as much as I enjoy being on camera, sometimes I just don't want to be. You have to get the camera, you have to get the microphone. And then when it's all said and done, you have to edit this. And if you can imagine, or if you've made video before, being on camera is incredibly difficult because you have to get your take right every time the first time, but also when you put out this video, it goes out to your audience. And if there's a mistake or if somebody wants to change something in your video, then you have to go all the way back to the beginning of this process and you have to get out your camera again and your microphone and you have to edit it all again. So video is this awful thing that everybody wants, but is so darn hard to make. So what's changed? Now we have generative AI, which is transforming content creation. And I think it's interesting because video changed once we didn't have to buy these expensive cameras and instead we can just use the camera that's in our pockets. Well, now we're going through the next change, which is we don't even need the camera in our pocket to be on screen. Instead, with the help of AI, we can generate video in using software. And so when we talk about transformative, it means that we're improving the learner experience by creating more video, but we're lowering the unit cost by making it easier, less effort, less cost to produce these videos. And so what we've done with generative AI, and I'll show you how this works in just a little bit, is we've taken that physical process of creating video with a camera, and instead we've moved into a digitally iterative process. We've taken the microphones out of having to record your voice by using text-to-speech. We have avatars, which can represent your talking head or your presenter on screen. And then once we have the two, we can just now click a button and we can create a video end-to-end. And once you have that video, if you find a mistake or you need to make a change or something happens with that video, rather than starting over, you can now just go back and edit it like editing a Google Doc or editing a slide. And I'll show you how that works in just a second. I think before I move on, I'm always curious, how, if you've had experience making AI videos before, or if you've thought about AI avatars. So please go ahead and write to me in the chat. But I want to show you really quickly before I dive into the platform, what others are doing with video. Because I think there's a lot of use cases that help us wrap our heads around what existing companies, how they're already using AI video in the present day. And so here we have Xerox. Perhaps you might know them because they make copy machines and other enterprise hardware and software. Well, they wanted to solve this problem of how do we train a global workforce? In this case, it was 1,000 or so sales staff. How do we train them? How do we update our training? Because a lot of the training that they were doing is similar to what we're doing now, where it's either me presenting in a lecture style, or it's a lot of PDFs and slide decks. How do they wanted to solve the problem of how do we take this text and turn it into something more engaging? And so what they did is they took this something like this wage transparency guide, something that's 50 pages of text, and instead of them voicing over the text, they created asynchronous courses by having an avatar voice over the text that's on screen. So they turned their live presenters into AI presenters, and it's presenting that same information, but the AI avatars can speak in over 160 languages. And so you can see how now they're able to take these PDFs and slide decks and text, and they're able to transform that into video and something that's much more engaging, but also present it in the language of the person's preference. So this is a use case of going from text into engaging video. Here we have DuPont, which is a company that does a lot of, they do a lot of chemical mixing, and they're solving a similar problem of how do we train a global workforce? And they're in the midst of a multi-year transformation where they're trying to teach thousands of employees the fundamentals of operational excellence through their OpEx Academy. And so really what that means is they were trying to create these high quality videos where you have a presenter who's talking on screen, teaching the different skills that someone might need to learn the fundamentals of operational excellence. But what they were doing is they were hiring out this task of recording actors and going to a studio. They were hiring that out to external vendors, and they were paying upwards of $10,000, $15,000 per video. And so I think the problem they're trying to solve is essentially, how do we save money? How do we stop having to do that? Well, now what they can do is they can bring all the video creation in-house, and using a combination of avatars as their actors and having templates like what you're seeing here on screen to design the video, they're able to create something that looks professional. They're able to do it themselves, and they don't have to pay all of this money just to create a high quality polished video. So it's this use case of saying, hey, I need to create high quality video, but now I can do that with AI with very little skill because I can use the templates rather than hire this out to a large an expensive operation where I need to rent the equipment and everything else. You also have, this was a use case where you have people who are looking for new ways to reach candidates. So a big part of HR is finding new talent and convincing people that they should work at your company. And so the problem that they were trying to solve is the way that you reach out to candidates, and maybe you've gone through this yourself, is you get a cold call or an email, or someone reaches out on social media and they kind of give you this templated response that says, hey, you should check out our company because of XYZ, and you kind of just delete that email and move on with your life. Well, at this company, they wanted to attract executive talent. So they want people in leadership positions to come work at these different companies. And so what they did, and you can see this pop up in the bottom right of these videos, but they said, hey, we're going to turn ourselves into AI avatars. So we're going to clone ourselves in a studio. And then with that avatar, you're able to share the message with your face on it rather than just a faceless email. And you're able to also have your avatar speak in the language of preference of the candidate. So if the candidate was from France, now me as a person, I can't speak French, but my avatar can. And so perhaps it's also, maybe you have clients that are speaking in Arabic. I can't speak Arabic, but my avatar can. And I'll give you a little preview of what that looks like in just a bit. At Zoom, they were focusing on this problem of how do we take e-learning, so a lot of training courses that they're creating, and how can we bring them to life? And so by that, I mean, in a lot of e-learning and training, you are asked to kind of just read information, or a video tells you something, and then you fill out your quiz and you move on to the next step. It's not a very engaging way to learn and take in information. Well, they decided at Zoom that for their e-learning, they wanted to build scenarios, and they wanted to build games, and they wanted to have characters who can bring some of this learning to life. And so what you are looking at is the AI avatar, rather than in sales training just saying, hey, this is how you make a sale. This is a scenario or a game called the Sales Detective, where you're following the story of a sale that's going through, and there are characters that pop up, and maybe the client is represented. Maybe you, as the sales detective, are investigating different things that are happening in the sales story, but you're actually being involved in the training. You're not just having information being told to you. You have characters that are popping up and that are delivering these trainings. And so that's just a couple different ways that you can use AI video in these creative ways. Maybe it's going from text into video. Maybe it's going from saving the cost of, instead of hiring out cameras and a production crew, you can save cost on creating that video yourself in-house and still make it look good. Or it's making these AI avatars into characters that can create stories and create scenarios that bring training video to life, not just having information being told to you. So I'm going to pause for a second here, because this is typically where I go into just showing off a little bit about the platform, so you can see what it is I mean when I say that you can create AI video easy and quickly. But I'm also, again, I'm curious, from your perspective, were there any use cases that you saw that you're interested in, or that you thought were interesting? Was there anything that you'd like to hear a little bit more about when it comes to using AI video? Again, I'm looking at the chat and always happy to answer those questions. I'm also curious, am I speaking too quickly? Am I speaking too slowly? Just let me know in the chat as well. Like I said, I am very eager to make sure that I'm connecting with you, so please feel free to write that in. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition over into the platform so I can show you about how an AI video is made. And so for those of you who don't know, this is Synthesia, where, and it's the what we use in order to make video. In our case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how, by using templates and how by generating a script using AI, you can create a video pretty easily. And you can use this for a training use case. I myself am going to put on pretend that I am HR or human resources at a company. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a video for you. Like I said, I'm not a visual designer, so I can choose a template and decide what are the layouts, how do I want my video to look. So I'm going to click into that. And let's say here's where it gets interesting, because I'm going to use AI to generate not just my script, but also my video. So here we go. So for my topic, maybe one of the problems that I'm struggling with is that people don't know how to, they don't know how to take advantage of their HR benefits on the first day of work. So I'm going to write that in as my topic, and I'll say the topic of my video is going to be about how to take advantage of your HR benefits at work. And my audience is going to be new hires at a startup called Synthesia, which happens to be the company I work for. And what you can do is you can add what language you want it to be in, maybe an objective for your video if you have performance objectives that you're targeting, maybe information about the persona of your audience. But I'm going to add a little context in here. I'm going to say, give me 3 actionable tips that new hires can use on their first week of work. Include a call to action that tells them to get in touch with their manager. So I've included this context about maybe a bit about what I'd like to see. I put in my topic, in my audience. Let's hit generate video and see what happens. So here we go. So what you can see is happening already is that if you've used ChatGPT or any large language model, then you can see it's starting to pull together my script. So it's saying, welcome to Synthesia. It's speaking to my new audience. And it's saying, these are the different, this is how you can take advantage of your benefits. A first tip, a second tip, and a third tip. And what you can see here, and I think this is where it gets more interesting than just a large language model generating a script, is that it's starting to generate the different layouts that it's going to use to create my video. So again, I myself might not be a visual designer, but you can see, for example, here it's putting in the on-screen text. It's saying, you can see that my speaker is already placed within the layout. It's putting text on screen to highlight important information. Maybe it cuts back to the avatar as a talking head presenter in my video, and then it has a call to action. So what I can do is I can generate this again, maybe add more information, but for now, let's go right into the platform. What you're looking at here, this is the view that it generates when you think about how it's going to take that information and start to break it into a video. Some things that might look familiar for you here is this should look like any sort of Google Slides or PowerPoint that you've used. This is your canvas where we can edit and move around text. We have our presenter here who we can move around, size and resize, make them smaller, make them larger, make them a circle in the corner. Maybe we just want the AI voice, but we have all different things that we can play around with here. And so I just want to show you quickly, let's say I want to have a different presenter on screen. I can say, maybe instead of this gentleman here, I want to have a woman in a navy suit. I can search for that. I click here, and then I'm going to make that change on all my slides. And so you can see that now my presenter looks has been changed on screen. Her voice has been changed. So I have a lot of flexibility with who my avatars and who my presenters are. And I think this is important because you have to know who you're communicating with and who they expect to see. So it's always good to have different avatars that represent different types of speakers, depending on who the speaker is, who your audience is. I can do things like change colors. I can make my video look more professional by perhaps changing, adding stock footage. So let's say I want two people chatting in an office. I can add that media in here. So you can see that what I'm starting to do is I'm starting to supplement the need for having to be on camera, or where can I get B-roll and footage that looks good in my videos. And that's all included in these platforms that you're seeing that help you create video. Of course, you can also choose a different voice. So for my presenter here, this is what her voice sounds like now. I'm going to play that for you so you can hear what that sounds like.
Welcome to Synthesia. As a new hire, you might be...
So the avatar is not moving at this moment because I haven't clicked on generate video, which I'll do in a second here, but I can choose different voices. Maybe I want an Australian accent. Maybe I want a British accent. Maybe I want a Canadian accent. If you are interested in hearing a voice, go ahead and maybe drop in a country or a regional type of accent. I can see that how we can have that here as well. But you can see that there are all types of British voices. Perhaps I want an Irish voice or an Indian voice. These are all things that we can now change rather than having to hire that actor. You can now just have the presenter speak. So here we go. Let's you can hear what that voice sounds like. So here.
Welcome to Synthesia. As a new hire, you might be wondering how to maximize your HR benefits.
All right, we have a request for a South African accent. Let's see if we can find that here. Oh, interesting. So here we go.
This is a demo of the voice you've selected. Make sure to listen to your script's audio preview before.
All right, and I'm curious to know how you thought that South African voice sounded. You can let me know in the chat. But again, I'm not here to show you really how to build a video in this, but more so that there's all these different factors that you can edit. And we like to say if you can edit a PowerPoint, then you can create a video. When you are ready to generate your video, you just hit generate video. I click generate, and then in 8 or 9 minutes, I'm going to have a video that's ready to show. What I can also do with this is, if I want to have this, let's say I produce that that version in English, I can now do something like, maybe I want to create a version of this in Arabic. I can hit translate video. It's going to create a different script for that. And if I open this, you can see that the video is now all in Arabic, including the voice. So I'll just play that for you quickly here.
مرحبا بكم في سينثيسيا. كموظف جديد، قد تتساءل عن كيفية
So the voices, I think it's fair to say that they're good enough maybe for informational and instructional content. They're probably not going to win a Hollywood award anytime soon, but you should stick around because these voices are changing overnight. So that's a little bit about how you create the video. I want to jump quickly back in because we talked a bit about the kind of what people are doing now and what you can do now, but I'm interested in discussing a little bit more about what's coming down the road, what's next. And so an idea to plant in your head, and you're probably already familiar with this, but there's a lot of, we're already able to generate video made completely without humans, meaning you don't even have to type in the topic and the audience and generate a script and move a few things around. We're already seeing video that's created automatically. And so video is no longer this piece of media that sits and waits to be watched by an audience. If you think about the way we do things now, maybe if you were to make a YouTube video, you take that video, you create it, you put it on YouTube, and then you look and see how are viewers engaging with the video? How are they watching it? Where do people fall off? Where do they stop watching? Why do they stop watching? Maybe it's too long, maybe it's too short. Well, if we're able to make video in this digitally iterative process, a big part of this that we're working on now is how you can analyze and regenerate that video. So without even editing the video or without even touching it, you're now, AI is able to see where people are not interested in the video and maybe change the content of that video, edit it to make it more snappy, maybe create a version for your phone because people prefer to watch video on your phone rather than watching it on their screen. So digitally iterative video is the future, meaning video that is not created with a camera, but rather with AI is much better than the video we have of today because it's so easy to edit it and fix it. Now, then we need to talk about AI avatars, which is something that I think that we've talked about. And the question to answer here is, what about scaling yourself? Because we're not just talking about AI avatars as presenters of information. We're talking about how you can make a clone of yourself or a copy of yourself and what you would do with that AI version of yourself. And so I think the big question to answer here is, what would you use your human self for or your AI self for? And what I want to show you are just a couple different use cases for how I'm currently using my AI avatar. And so to create an AI avatar, what that process means is that you go into a studio or you use a webcam, you record yourself for maybe about 15 to 20 minutes reading a script, but then you have a fully programmable AI model. And so I think what's interesting about this is now there is an AI avatar version of Kevin that sits, that's able to create videos, and there's a human Kevin, myself, who can create videos or communicate through video in different ways. What do I mean by that? Well, for me, the current challenge that I'm working on is I work on a very small team in a company of about 300 people. There's about 2 of us. And so the problem that I'm trying to solve is I head up our academies. I produce a lot of customer education content for hundreds, thousands of people, but I want to make myself, my one person me, feel like 1,000. And I can use my AI avatar to do things like create announcements for conferences, which is what I've done here on the left. Or on the right, it's how do I build training videos, customer education videos at scale using my AI avatar. And if you're wondering, yes, I did have a mustache when I made that avatar on the right. That's why that avatar has a mustache and I don't have one now. But I also, so it's essentially allows me to communicate at scale with people, meaning I'm able to just go from me creating maybe 1 video a week to hundreds of videos per week, depending on if I'm using them for marketing or if I'm using them for creating training videos for customer education. But I also use this in my day-to-day work. So the other hat that I wear at Synthesia is doing client solutions, where I work with some of our bigger customers on how they can build video. And Here's an example of how using my AI avatar is better than I am because it can speak Japanese to a client, whereas I can't speak that language at all, but it's important if I want to connect with other humans I'm working with. So that's what this looks like.
私は120以上の言語を話すことができ、このビデオは数秒で作成されました。ありがとうございました。
All right, so as you can
Bonjour à
see,
tous.
oh,
Je ne suis
I'm
pas
also
une
speaking
personne
in French,
réelle.
apologies.
Je suis créé par la société Synthesia, et en fait, tout ce que je dis en ce moment est basé sur des codes, des mots et des phrases tapées sur un ordinateur. Je peux parler plus de 120 langues et cette vidéo a été créée en quelques secondes, sans rien filmer. Merci pour votre temps, j'espère vous revoir.
Okay, now AI Kevin is done talking. Wonderful. So I have what I call the 5 touches with clients, meaning I use video, I use my AI avatar self to communicate information that we'll be covering maybe in our next meeting, or I use it to introduce myself to the client and frame our work that we're about to do together. But all of that is in their preferred language, whether that's French, Arabic, Japanese. And then what do I use my human self for? Well, my AI self has already opened the door and said what we're going to work on and talk about. Now I can use my human self to work with the client face to face, and we can really solve the problems that really require my human self to be working with that person in real time. But then I can also send them updates about the project in their preferred language or other comms that I might use. So again, I use my AI avatar self for delivering informational content, and I use my human self for more of the critical thinking and problem solving that really requires a human-to-human touch. But I think this is just an example, I think, where I'm really excited has been where you pair AI avatars with large language models. So by that, I mean, how do we then have a conversation with, an expert if we don't have access to that expert? And so I'll walk you through this example in just a second, but this is an example that really excited me. And here's what I think is really the future of AI video for training at work, which is how we help others to communicate with expertise and company knowledge. This, as an actual person, his name is Barry Kunst. He teaches a lot of courses and he's written a lot of books on public speaking and how to deliver a message effectively. And what he has here is essentially he's taken all that knowledge from his books and other courses, and he's plugged that knowledge into a large language model that we can now talk to. And so I wouldn't just show this out, I want to show you what that example looks like. And so I'm just changing my screen over here. But what you can see, and hopefully this works now that I want to show you, is I can actually talk to Barry. So I'm going to start a voice conversation.
I'm Barry too, Barry Kunst's digital twin. There are 3 ways I can help you present with impact.
So I'm just going to shush him right here, and instead I'm going to speak. I'm going to ask him, let's say,
Presenting
Barry, can you teach me how to be good at public speaking?
yourself and your ideas in a compelling way is crucial. Nobody expects you to be perfect when you speak. What they would like you to be is remarkable. You're remarkable when your audience remembers you and what you said for days, months, even years.
But Barry, how do I overcome the fear of public speaking?
Public speaking helps us to grow in various ways. It pays us back for all the discomfort that we have to face, and in a big way. Public speaking is a powerful way to boost your communication skills, refine your ideas, inspire others, build a social network.
So I'm just going to pause it there, but you can start to see how we can, with Barry, maybe he has very limited knowledge and what he can what I can ask him questions about and what he can guide me on. But it's essentially, instead of us typing our what we're curious about into a chat, now we get to actually have a conversation. And where AI avatars come into this conversation are, all of this is going to need a human face and a human voice for us to be comfortable with it. I know that some of you may have used the audio version on ChatGPT. So if you're curious about what that looks like, I'm going to show that to you here. You can get a sense of what that looks like when you when you connect. So on my phone, I have ChatGPT where I have a conversation with it and say, so it's connecting. Can you help me to become a better public speaker? I'm having trouble speaking right now. And so what it's going to do, and hopefully you can hear it.
It sounds like you're looking for some guidance to improve your public speaking skills. Could you tell me a bit more about what specific difficulties you're facing? Is it nerves, structuring your speech, engaging your audience?
So I think that's all to say what I really see as the future is not us being able to create this content faster or to be able to generate videos, but more so what are our actual interactions like with large language models and information and AI. And I'm always curious about what the role of AI avatars is going to play in that. And so my kind of big takeaway from you for you is that we're all dealing with this problem right now of having too much information thrown at us. And it used to take hours or days to create video and kind of give you that information where somebody else is making, you're watching somebody else's video, you don't know if it's going to be helpful or not, or you might find out that it's actually not worth anything. Well, now it's getting even easier to make that type of content. And so content itself is becoming something that's very cheap to produce. It's easier to create an AI video than it is to create a video where you yourself are on camera. And the experiences that we're seeing that are really winning out with AI are the ones where we feel like there's an actual human experience to it. Like you saw with that digital coach, I want something that I can speak to about my problems, that's going to understand my context, and that I can work in a dialogue fashion or a conversation fashion to get better at the skills that I'm working on. And so it's not about necessarily creating a whole bunch of content and putting it in people's inboxes or sending it out to people, but more so how we create different types of experiences using AI tools that I think is really going to change how we think about how AI video and AI impacts how we communicate and learn at work. So the big takeaway here is when AI produced content is cheap, the experience is going to be a premium. And the question I leave you all with, of course, is maybe this is a conversation to take to your next dinner or coffee chat or conversation with a friend. Think about what you'd use your AI avatar self for. I've shared what I use it for. And then I think my one call to action is that if you are curious to learn more about video, I think that AI video is going to get easier and easier to put together. But I think the big skill that everybody needs to work on is understanding how to put together a good video or what goes into a good video. Because until we get true AI generated video, you're still going to be left behind if you don't know, how to identify your audience or how to hone your message. And so this is just something that I like to float up. This is a free certification from Synthesia Academy, which just teaches you the essentials of video so that next time you're working on your video project, you have an idea of how to put that together. And there's the URL on screen. But otherwise, thank you so much for listening to me. You can ignore the booth number. That was just from my last conference. But if you have connections, if you have questions, feel free to connect on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. My email is also very easy to find, as you can see. But I'm always grateful that there's folks who are here to learn and listen about AI video because it's something that is changing overnight, and I just really don't want folks to get left behind. And like that digital coach, I'm curious to see what you come up with. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mariana. And also, if you have any questions, excited to hear more. Mariana, my assumption is that I've left everyone absolutely speechless with AI video and avatars, but also very happy to answer any questions. Someone has just sent a question on the back, but yeah.
So if anybody has any questions, you can unmute yourselves or you can use the chat box.
I think at the very least, I'm curious, what would you, maybe, you need a little bit of time to think, but If you had an AI avatar of yourself, much like you've seen mine or other folks that have now, I'm curious, what would you use that AI avatar for? Maybe it's something in your current work context or environment, or maybe you need to create videos and you don't want to be on camera. What would you use your AI self for? Very much. It's definitely changes your perspective on what's possible, I think. And this is just me responding to what I see in the chat. But once you see the different use cases for all the different types of AI video that people are creating, or people who are able to create video that weren't able to before, I think that's what I get most excited about, because I think it takes this idea that video is something only done by experts or people who are very comfortable being on camera, and it says, hey, I could use video in new and engaging ways. So I definitely agree with what you're saying there. Training, marketing, family touch from distance instead of chatting. It's so interesting. I think my first reaction to what was just dropped in the chat is a family touch from a distance. Sometimes you don't, I know that I live in Copenhagen, but my family is back in the US. It's a 6-hour difference. Sometimes I don't feel like being on FaceTime on camera, or it's 12 midnight where I live, but it's just 6 p.m. where my parents are. It'd be great to send just a quick message to let them know, hey, I'm doing okay. But I definitely hear you for that family touch instead of chatting. It really opens up this new form of communication where there's something now that we have options, whether that's you no longer just can choose between getting on the phone or sending an email or writing something in Teams or Slack. Maybe instead you want to communicate information packaged in a video. So I definitely see that there's a new space that's opening for AI video. So definitely a change in perspective, but also so many different applications. And definitely agree on the marketing perspective. I use it for marketing all the time when some days I get up and I just don't feel like doing my hair and being on camera, and my AI avatar fits perfectly every time.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm curious if you guys have a plan to use this system on metaverse or some kind of digital world, because yeah.
So that's a good question, I think, because a lot of the videos that we view are in the physical space, meaning I might be on my computer and I'm watching a video, but when we get into the metaverse, I think there's going to be a need. There are already some of our avatars that are being used by different companies in the metaverse, and a lot of that is around the current use cases. If you have a digital environment, maybe something that's like a museum where you have a lot of different places where information can be displayed around you, you can use the AI avatar as a guide to pop up and say, hey, welcome to the metaverse. Here's how you navigate this space. You could have the AI avatars as presenters who are presenting information kind of in a gallery format, meaning maybe as you walk by something in the metaverse, an AI avatar pops up. But what that means is that these avatars, you need a volume of videos where it can't just be one person or a team of people who's generating all these scripts. You really need to have AI generating video that says, hey, based off this person who's coming in, this is their language that they speak in, this is what they're interested about. And so all of these videos in the metaverse that are going to be generated just for the person who comes in. So it's certainly a new space to consider and look at.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Mariana, I think we're just about ready to wrap up.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kevin. It was a wonderful session. It was definitely an eye-opener, like you said, and I'm sure everybody would have learned so much from this session. Thank you very much. You'll all receive a feedback form link in the chat box. Would request you to give your feedback. So what do we have next? We have an upcoming coaching communities of practices session scheduled for tomorrow, that is November 8th at 12 p.m. EST. This session is your chance to gain a profound understanding of your inner game and leverage it to your advantage. Whether you're looking to boost your career, enhance personal relationships, or find a sense of purpose, this session promises to be a game changer. You all can scan the QR code on top to register for this event. Thank you all once again for joining this session. Stay tuned for more. We'll be coming up with many more sessions for you to learn and grow with us. We will share this recording to everybody who registered for the event, and we'll upload it on our Agile People Ops YouTube channel. Thank you. Have a great day.